Hello and welcome to the Buyers Agents podcast. My name is Leon Hayes and I'm joined here today with my co-founder of buyersagents.com.au, Eugene Darjay Craig. Welcome, Eugene.
Finally, after months and months and months of grueling work, we have launched buyersagents.com.au. And Leon, being technologists, loving technology, it has to be one of our crown jewels as far as what we've built, right?
Look, I think so.
Yeah.
I'm blown away at the level of A, adoption, B, excitement, and just the product that's been delivered.
You can always tell a really good technology product when you don't have to sell it. And I think that's really what I've noticed is people are just onboarding themselves. And I think this all comes down to, you said it best yourself when you said at the moment in Australia, the property market is incredibly noisy, particularly online. There is nowhere for a customer looking for a buyer's agent to actually identify the right buyer's agents for them and being able to actually contact them. So identifying that was, I'd say, one of the fundamental reasons we created buyersagents.com.au in the first place.
So the PropTech sector, as you mentioned, is completely, busy.
Oh, absolutely.
Every niche is almost covered. Whether it be from property managers to real estate agents to platforms to SaaS to the explosion of AI products and solutions. But this idea of a buyer's agent is really only generationally entered over the past 10 years into the Australian psyche and the Australian mindset of actually having somebody use a buyer's agents to purchase a product or purchase a house or a property for them. So, how do you think that is going to look over the next 10 years?
I actually think about this quite often. Even a year ago, I didn't actually know what a buyer's agent was. And I remember you bringing this to me. I know you're quite experienced in the property sector, and I love listening to your stories about development and investments. And you said, "Hey, Eugene, have you heard of buyer's agents? In America, they are absolutely going gangbusters."
Yeah, you only have to watch a American reality TV show and see that
yeah.
every transaction has a buyer's broker and has a realtor or a selling agent.
Right. And it was honestly the next day when I was on Reddit or one of those social media platforms, and there was people asking, where can I find a buyer's agent? And I'd never heard the term before. I'd never seen it before. And I was like, and it's only gained momentum since then. And I think it was one of the best decisions I made was when you brought me this idea. You said, hey, I've got this incredible idea to fill this gap in the Australian market with a piece of technology that serves both customers looking for buyer's agents and buyer's agents themselves. And at first I was a little hesitant because, again, I hadn't heard of buyer's agents, but I jumped on board and I'm so glad I did because it is just such a poignant piece of technology for the current state of property online.
And I think that piece of technology will, if we articulate it right, if we action it right, will become down in Australian folklore and history as being a major real estate resource, both for buyers agents, but particularly for buyers looking, buyers like yourself that hadn't used a buyer's agent, buyers like yourself that were potentially thinking about a buyer's agent, or buyers like yourself that are looking for an investment property or growing their portfolio. One of the things I find, or the analogies that you tend to use, is if we go back maybe 15 to 20 years ago, having a personal trainer was uncommon. Even just 5 or 10 years ago, the likes of Chris Hemsworth all across Instagram having his own personal trainer flying around the world was something that was like, wow. How does he have this constant personal trainer? And today, personal trainers are available everywhere. They're online. Personal trainers are available at the gym. Personal trainers, Google personal trainer, you can find one locally to you. And, a large percentage of those people that go to the gym have seen or been with a personal trainer at some point. So they're no longer there for this exclusive group of people that A, can afford it, or B, have been opened or had their eyes open to this particular role. And I think buyer's agents are very similar. I think Australia is a very big place, and I think the dynamic of the Australian property market, whilst has been extremely secure, for many decades, park your money into property. People are now looking to invest into more property. People are looking to purchase property in different regions or different areas. And as a result of that, having somebody with an expert guidance, having intelligence in a particular market, the data that's available to the buyers agents, which may not be available to the everyday buyer. I think all of these things are shifting the paradigm towards, here's a buyer's agent, this is what a buyer's agent can do, and this is how they can help.
It's that accessibility, that I think even surprised me. Like, again, initially I was like, oh, a buyer's agent, that's not really something that someone like myself, who maybe is just looking for an investment property, not in a sense of having a wide or very broad portfolio, it actually becomes quite a practical option. Having an expert actually do the hard yards on the research, being able to actually bring their decades of experience often to the table and offer suggestions which are genuinely good investments. I think that it becomes a very accessible thing to the everyday Australian looking to purchase an investment property. I think we hit this from two ends of the spectrum here, Leon, and I think that offers a very interesting insight, right? You're coming from quite an experienced background in property development, and myself, who was fortunate enough to buy a property in Norman Park, actually, about 7 years ago, and I got in before the big boom, and I'm only just now thinking about either a renovation or maybe buying a second investment property. So do you think that I would be the right person to be able to leverage a buyer's agent?
Yeah, so what I find within the property development sector, before we get into that, I think, and before I answer your question, we really want to take this podcast to the people across Australia, get them to unpack and understand exactly who we are, understand what buyersagents.com.au does, and most importantly, understand this process of using a buyer's agent to meet and greet buyer's agents through the pod. And I think that's going to be really insightful for us to both speak with buyers and with the buyer's agents about deals and transactions that happen. So when you look at it from a perspective of, from a property developer, we're based in Brisbane. I've got a particular suburb or couple of suburbs that we focus traditionally in building residential property, only residential at the moment. And that particular suburb is Hendra. Love Hendra, and we'll talk more about my favourite suburbs and yours over the course of the podcast. But when I look at it, it's all about relationships in property development. It's relationships with your black book. It's relationships with your builder, your architect, your town planner, your financier, your bank, the council, your colorists, your designers, your film crew, your marketers, all of those people, whether they be internal within your business or whether they be external and therefore a contractor, it's about having that relationship, because each one of them are experts in their industry. And property developers are not experts in the industry. What they're experts at is bringing together people on a particular deal and making that deal, building that property specifically to the market that wants it and creating the demand around it. The best way to get those relationships is in buying that property is to have a buyer's agent. Have a real estate agent or a buyer's agent that you've got a great relationship with, that will bring you deals, bring you off-market deals, bring you deals that have insight to what you're actually trying to achieve. We're selling some land at the moment, and we see two types of buyers. We see the buyer who is a developer, so they're trying to buy below market value. And then we see those that residents trying to potentially go from a 405 square metre block to a 800 square metre block. And they're wanting to pay market value. Obviously, nobody wants to pay over, but they're more willing to buy, at that market value because they see it over a longer time. But they need to be educated, the buyer. And as a result of that, they need somebody to give them that education. And I find that buyer's agents do that incredibly well on educating the buyer, but they also do it incredibly well in bringing deals to us as a property developer off market prior to them going to market, because they know that we're going to be able to transact quickly, we're going to be able to transact efficiently, and we're going to be able to give the seller a price which is fair and equitable to everybody. And I think that's where it's really, really key from a property developer's perspective, is that the buyer's agents are a definite need. But from a buyer's perspective, a residential family looking to access the market, or looking to move into the market, or looking to move into a suburb, it's really key for them to be able to have somebody on their side that's acting in their interests, that's bringing them the information, so that they're not under that stressful situation when making the decision.
And this is exactly why this marketplace which we've built is, so valuable to both the buyer's agents themselves to offer themselves up as a verified buyer's agent, be able to actually have the depth of their experience actually on display, and for the actual customers looking for buyer's agents to be able to actually find the right match to what they're actually after. And so I think it would be great if we talked a little bit about, how buyersagents.com.au does that, particularly around giving buyers agents the right tools to be able to actually promote themselves to the right customer.
So when I was doing the research very early on, and this began about 1.5 years ago, I went back to my emails, my text messages, and I think throughout the podcast, not today's episode, but during other episodes, we'll get to understand the nuances of how we built the company and why we built the company and what we're building. And we'll take the listeners on a bit of a journey and get them involved as well, because I think that's really, really poignant for building a great brand. But what was quite interesting is when we first started out, when I was first investigating and doing the research, I really thought there was just one type of buyer's agent, a buyer's agent, like a real estate agent. But then when we look at real estate agents aren't just real estate agents. I mean, I have some good friends that are real estate agents, and some of the most successful in Queensland. And they're successful because they niche, they focus on a particular type of property, or a particular type of market, or a particular suburb, and maybe even niche into that particular suburb in a particular type of property. And that's really important because they're the people that know the sellers, and they're the people that know what value it looks like. They're people that know how to transact and get deals done. Then you take a bit of a macro look, and real estate agents, you could have a commercial real estate agent or a residential real estate agent. You might have a commercial industrial real estate agent. So when we first started researching, when I first started looking into this about 1.5 years ago, really from a buyer's agent perspective, I was like, there's just one type, but there actually isn't. And I think that's one of the really key things about buyersagents.com.au. And this came from you sort of evolving the product into the specialities that actually buyer's agents have.
I actually remember the moment you came to me and go, Eugene, did you know that there's actually a variety of different buyer's agents? And when we were doing the product work in order to sort of plan out the profile section of the buyer's agent, we initially hit it with just like a bucket list of specialties, right? But then after we started talking to buyer's agents, and you did a lot of this, we actually identified that there is actually these specialty clusters. So we made sure that the platform from the ground up had support to be able to display and to promote those particular specialties, right?
And I think that's so critical to the sustainability of the platform,
100%.
right?
100%.
And I mean that because when we look at real estate platforms today, if I go and buy real estate, I'm going to go to REA's website, right? And I'm going to use that 95, I don't know what the numbers are, percent of people are going to go there. Yes, other people are going to go to Domain. Or they'll go to both. Then if I'm looking for an agent, I'm probably going to be on one of those two websites, or I'm going to go and use one of the agent finding websites that exist. But nothing existed for the buyer's agent. Then when we look at the buyer's agent, buyersagents.com.au now exists for that. Having those agents on the platform that focus on investment property only, that person and that conversation for that particular buyer looking for an investment property, like yourself, you've already got one, you're looking potentially for another, is very, very different to the person that already has a portfolio and is looking to move suburb, potentially looking to go up a suburb, retire and go to a different suburb. We see a lot of it happen here in Brisbane, people moving to the Sunshine Coast or the Gold Coast, people trying to move from parts of Brisbane to more blue chip suburbs, for instance. They have the ambition to do so. And then even into the financial category, a buyer's agent sub $1 million, not many of those are, I wouldn't imagine, in Brisbane anymore. But those in that maybe $1 to $2 million bracket are definitely different to those in the $5+ million bracket. And we're going to see we've got some incredible guests that are coming on the podcast.
Really excited
over the next few months. Some that are good friends to me that we've used before, or that we've engaged with them before, or have educated me along my property journey. Others that you could call the mavericks of the industry. I don't know if that's a positive word but they are definitely carving a pathway and forward in the space, but they're all different in their specialties. They're all different in their targeting message. They're all different in who they can actually help and solve a problem for. And I think that's one of the real powers that we're going to see within buyersagents.com.au over the next few, or through its foundation years, is just how many people it can.
Yeah, the best platforms are ones that are very closely tied to the actual users, and this has always been the case. And I think one of the best experiences I've had when building buyersagents.com.au was the ability to actually connect with these buyers agents themselves. And I think that we've set up a company here with a philosophy of adaptability so that our technology can actually evolve and grow with the industry very quickly. I had a conversation with the buyer's agents the other day, and what really blew me away was he mentioned, I want to be able to select greater regions.
Yes.
Do you remember this conversation? And it's something that just slipped our minds, right? We had postcodes, we had cities, we had states, but the greater regions is really where this particular buyer's agent operated. And then within maybe 12 or 24 hours, we were able to make the adjustments to our location system and have it implemented for him.
Look, there's so many topics that I want to unpack, throughout this journey, and we'll see how it evolves. The podcast around, about us and about the business that we're actually building ourselves, and obviously then, there's going to be people that are interested in that. I mean, if you could find out what REA was like in their first years of development, I think people would be like blown away, especially the entrepreneurs and technologists. But you having this insight to technology in the way that you do, and you to be able to now change the paradigm in which we develop and deploy technology. How has that changed for you, I guess, in relation to buyersagents.com.au, as opposed to some other products that we've built? And we've built a number of products together, both in the prop tech space, and we're building a couple at the moment, which are just incredible. to go alongside buyers agents. But how have you seen that? We've been working together for now, over 3 years, and during that time, we've started in a very traditional way of building technology, and now we're in a much more, I'll let you explain it, but a much more agile way of development. How have you seen that 3 years change, and how do you see it going over the next 20?
Leon, listen, I guess I have to start off with a bit of context in the sense that I've been a product designer for a better part of 10 years, and I started my journey as a digital designer, right? And I used to code websites myself. Over the years of working for big tech companies, small tech companies, working for myself, building technology, I've never seen such accelerated progression in the product design and development space as I have over the last 6 months.
6 months.
Not even, I would say even over the last 3 months. And where it's changed for me is there's always been a separation between the vision of a product and what's actually delivered. And there is a lot of time and money and energy that also gets sucked up in that process. So not only did we used to look at a deliverable that was far from the original vision, but the resource drain to reach that point was almost paralyzing to the project.
So let's just unpack that a little bit for the listeners. When we say you're a product designer, you're a digital product designer, so
That's right, yeah.
things you see on a screen.
SaaS companies like web apps, mobile apps.
Mobile apps, okay. And then from there, when startups, one of the previous startups, we'll probably get them to sponsor an episode of the podcast at some point in time. When we started working on that particular product, 3 or 4 years ago, there was yourself involved as lead designer. There we had another designer, which was then to assist and to cut up screens and to make it look right and fit it right within your guidance. You were the creative director, but then we needed somebody then to implement.
And then, and also like all of the book work, in regards to managing the tickets, managing the sprints, managing multiple developers, multiple teams.
So we had a team of 12 plus people at that particular time, building that, getting that ready for release. So tell us about how the past few months have worked with buyers.
So I was fortunate enough, probably about a year ago, to be on the very forefront of using agentic or AI to develop applications. And at first it was incredibly shaky. And I wasn't 100% sure if it was ever going to reach a point where you could create stable, very secure platforms using agentic development. And I still think you do need a certain level of development experience in order to actually leverage them correctly. But where I feel the most powerful progression has occurred is in being so close to the delivered technology. So rather than there being these multiple steps where I would sketch it on paper, I would create wireframes. They would then be checked with stakeholders. I'd then create high fidelity screens. Those would then be cut up into components and developed. I'm actually able to now hold in my head the vision for a product and be able to directly create it and test it as I'm building it, meaning that the end product is validated by the process of creation as I build it. That section doesn't feel right. Okay, I'll make those adjustments. I'm able to test it immediately. Now, what I've learned, and I'm very fortunate to have some incredibly skilled developers and very senior developers sort of around me to be able to ensure that the best practices are kept. Once you set up that scaffolding, once you set up the buyersagents.com.au, for instance, we built that with fundamental security built in, from the ground up. And then it comes to stability and the performance and all of these different aspects. They create this framework that I am then able to express the value of the product very quickly. And this was demonstrated the other day when
we launched.
Yeah, when we launched.
You got that feedback.
Got that feedback, was able to spin up the change, run the tests, and then be able to push that.
And I think that's part of the key is having those subject matter experts.
Oh, so good.
From a technical sense, absolutely. But having and we've got some great ones. We've got our CTO, we've got our lead software engineers, we've got those that can actually give us that guidance under that framework that you're operating. But having that subject matter expert come from industry, and that's what happened last week. We launched, and immediately we had some incredible feedback from local buyers agents, and you were able to then take that, implement it within hours, which would have, I guess, initially been weeks.
Yeah.
And you're now doing it in hours, delivering a stable product, delivering directly as what the customer requires when they require it.
Yeah, exactly.
Fascinating. So if we look at the podcast itself, we're going to give a bit of a framework to the listeners. We're going to be delivering an episode a week.
Yep.
And you and I will be hosting. We will be filming here in Brisbane, but maybe throughout the country as well. We'll take it on the road. I'd like to see that.
No, that'd be fun, wouldn't it?
We have some incredible guests lined up, both in those particular niches of podcast. But tell me about what the sort of podcast structure we're looking for.
Listen, what I'm really excited about is connecting with these buyers agents. And as a product designer, what truly brings me happiness is delivering an experience that blows people away and is so close to what somebody needs that it feels effortless to use. And the only way that you're able to produce products like that is to directly connect with the actual users themselves. So that's what I'm really excited about. Yeah.
Because what I find, I have the very fortunate position of doing only now things that I love, right? And I never, as an entrepreneur trying to build a business, that seems like it's complete BS. When you first start out and you're trying to build a business every single day, and you've got bills to pay and people to pay and team members to pay and customers to look after, and doing something you love seems so far from a reality check. What generally tends to happen once you have an event like selling a business or growing a business so well that it's on autopilot, which, and when I say autopilot, it has an incredible management team in, you are then fortunate enough to be able to do things that you love. But you can't do everything without the experts that actually have the knowledge. So you can't build great companies without subject matter experts because you can't know everything. And that's the thing that I love, is I can do things now, such as build these tech products with incredible people like yourself and our team. But then we get under the layer of the actual people out there doing it. And then to be able to do that and then deliver to them what they need, because they're not technologists. We are. They're not app builders or platform builders. We are. They're not human-centric designers. We are. But what they are, they're incredible connectors within their industry to their customers. They know what they need. And for us to be able to use this podcast to share those stories and deliver that both to buyers who are just learning about this, like you were 12 months ago, learning about this new industry, and buyers agents who are looking to grow. They are, as an industry, they are the mavericks. They're not the real estate agents, right? They are the ones out there.
And that's what makes it so exciting, right? Like, I just love it. And I think like yourself and we act as like a conduit to the buyer's agent. We're going to provide them with a means to a means to display themselves and to sell themselves in just the way that they want to.
Just the way, and
Just
give
the
them
way.
the tools to be able to do it.
Absolutely.
And that's what I find fascinating.
Amazing.
We can bring them the AI tools, the marketing tools, the media tools, the search engine optimization tools, the lead tools, all of these things. We can bring all of that into one central place. Then we can allow them to then connect with their audience and buyers in general, which will just be really, really fascinating.
Oh, it's super exciting.
And so the structure of the podcast will be very relaxed. I'd love to see some, segments within our episodes, things like where we do like 60 seconds with the buyer's agent.
Yeah, listen, I'm really excited about this. I've got some ideas. I'd love to ask a buyer's agent, where they would buy a property, but only give them 5 seconds to answer. And we'll start at like 2 mil, and then we'll go down. We'll go 1.5, 1 mil, 750, 500, and let's just see what they come up with.
Well, they're certainly not buying in Brisbane.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it'd be interesting to see what they say, And I'd love to also hear their perspective on first home buyers as well. Like if you have a deposit and you're looking to get into this incredibly challenging market, how would you go about it? I think that the depth of knowledge of some of these buyers agents is astounding.
And I from a property developer's perspective, I would love to understand the deal, right? Like there's some incredible developers in Australia, that are doing incredible things. And there's some incredible investment-led buyers agents who are doing things like, X amount of properties or whatever they've done. Just unpacking some of those deals. Maybe it's the first deal, just getting into it. How did that buyer's agent help that person unpack and get that first deal? Because it's so to not be on the property ladder and then to get onto the property ladder feels like it's a mountain that you have to cross. And there's a lot of government incentives now that should open that. Some that you may agree with, some that you may not, or some that we may not agree with, but we'll unpack that and understand it. But understanding those deals, or understanding how the deal that sold for a Brisbane record recently, how did they get that deal started? How did they buy that deal for the end buyer? Who was that end buyer? Understanding that, if there's public knowledge. And I think understanding those deals is going to bring so much value to the audience, both from a buyer's perspective and from a buyer's agent.
Yeah. I'm also really interested in hearing the challenges that the buyer's agents face. What are the pitfalls and things to watch out for? Where have they struggled, and where have they overcome those struggles in what ways?
Because they would be shared between other buyer's agents.
100%.
And not only that, they'd be used by the buyers to understand, okay, if they were able to overcome that adversity as a buyer's agent and find a solution to it and potentially be the leader in that solution nationwide, then they're the people that you want to speak to, right? Look, I look forward to our episodes.
Me too.
Our target is at least 52 episodes over the next 12 months.
That sounds great. Sounds exciting. Sounds like a lot of work, but I'm excited to get stuck into it.
They've got this really great studio that I'm looking forward to curating over time. Looking forward to sharing the audio waves with you.
Yeah.
And some really exciting things from our inaugural Buyers Agents Awards with buyersagents.com.au will be hosted next year.
Really excited about that, Leon, actually.
Taking people on that journey as people are nominated and people actually buyers agents become the winners of that. Taking us to the streets and interviewing general day-to-day buyers, general day-to-day people and homeowners and home purchasers about what they know.
Just on the awards, we implemented a full award system into the buyersagents.com.au platform, didn't we? And I'm really excited to start using that award system to really recognize buyers agents who are the top of their fields, who are doing incredible stuff. And
recognition keeps people motivated to do more, doesn't it? That recognition, and recognition can come with a like and a subscribe. We'll have to make sure everybody likes and subscribes to the pod. But it can come through some recognition of achievement, recognition on a weekly basis of landing a deal, buying for a particular property, or particularly buying for a buyer of a particular property. And really, we want to see that. We want to recognise that and become the place that buyers agents are rated, reviewed, and awarded across Australia, because it's an incredible space. They're incredible people, and this is one podcast and one journey and one company that will have impact on just about every single Australian.
I think it's definitely going to be a household name, isn't it?
Well, guys, thank you very much for tuning into this week's podcast. Please make sure that you like, subscribe, comment below. What we will be doing each week is we'll be asking our buyers agents guests some questions from our audience. So we'll be checking all of those questions. We'll be looking at those questions on both YouTube, on Spotify, and through our Instagram and social channels. So please make sure you reach out, ask any questions. Your feedback, your rating, your subscribing is incredibly important to us. It allows us to be able to grow as a podcast, allows us to be able to grow as people and hosts, and allows us to be able to deliver to you the content and information that you really want to see. So thanks very much for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you next week.